So, hi everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unpacking Possibility. I'm your host, Traci Stein. And as always, I am so happy to be here with you. You may have noticed it's been a little bit of a hiatus that I've had, but I'm back and I want to talk to you a little bit about that because it relates to our topic today. And that is the most important word you need to know to do good self care. Right? Without this word, you cannot engage in adequate self care. I don't care who you are. You'll find your version of it. And of course, by now you probably know that that word is no. No. Without being able to say no, you really cannot take care of yourself in the way you need to for an indefinite period of time. This is what I mean by that. So, just again, a little bit on a personal note, some of you know that it's been, just a kind of interesting several months. A very close friend of ours was very ill and passed away. And it's been a lot to sit with, just emotionally, of course, as you would think it would be. Um, my beloved dog, Loretta, also known as Loretta the Bean. You've probably seen her on my Instagram or Facebook, but she has had a lot of health issues. And so we've been back and forth to a lot of emergency vets and for a while. And so we've been taking turns and then not taking turns, kind of staying up with her. And so my tank has felt very empty, on the emptier side. And many of you are really caretaking people naturally, right? Because I know so many of you that I've heard from really are people who place a very high priority on taking care of others and being a quote good person. And many of you are healers or therapists or healthcare professionals or parents or just people who tend to be really involved in your communities and your worlds and honestly a way that I really do think ultimately makes the world a better place. But the challenge for all of us is that we are human and we have lives. Many of us have had a different energy level or some new symptoms or worsening of old symptoms since COVID. Long COVID is a really huge phenomenon and has made it really hard for people to sustain the amount of concentration and energy and so forth compared to what they used to do, right? As we get older, sometimes we need to set aside a little bit more personal time and self care time. And just in general, again, our lives are not static, they're dynamic. But if we don't learn to step back and do self care, and a lot of times that's going to require saying no to something so that you can say yes to something else you need to do. What happens is over time, we just burn out. We'll burn out emotionally. We could burn out physically. And as some of you already know, if you don't say no because you feel you can't, and we'll talk about that in a second, your body will eventually start saying no for you. And then, instead of setting a limit with your voice and your choice and, you know, deciding, you can do this much in a given day and not every single thing everybody would like you to or you would like to, well, your body will step in and start saying no for you, whether it's just overwhelming fatigue or getting run down and getting the flu or something else. If you have a chronic health issue like migraines or GI stuff or back pain or whatever it is, autoimmune stuff, you will probably notice how that amps up and worsens and gets harder to manage. Well, when you don't ever set limits, pace yourself, and otherwise say no. Now, I want to talk about why no is so hard for so many of us, right? So, again, like I mentioned, many of us are just wired to be natural helpers. We feel good when we are saying yes and when we're making other people's lives better, when we're taking care of our friends and our families and our partners and our pets, and, when we're doing well at our jobs and so forth. The healers out there, your job is to be helpful and to help people get to where they haven't been able to get to on their own, right? It feels good when we do this. We're in the flow. We feel most like ourselves. The reward is really the act of helping other people to feel and do better. And again, that's a great thing. So one is the fact that it nourishes our souls when we say yes. Now, another reason why we might feel like it's impossible to say no and we can only say yes is because we've been raised to do so. And I've talked about that before. So if you were known as, the good girl, the good boy, your parents' helper, the nice kid, or if you grew up with an ill parent and had to do a lot of helping, or if your family's really expected that, you were probably praised for helping, doing. And you may have noticed the absence of praise or even criticism when you all of a sudden said no or had your own feelings, needs, or opinions, right? It's going to make it so much harder to say no throughout your life. You could be 75 years old and it's going to be much harder to say no. Related to those things, this will be number 3, I guess. If you're a person who always says yes and takes care of a lot of people, and I don't just mean taking care of people who physically or emotionally really need it, but the people who just like that you take on everything. Well, what happens is you start saying no, even if it's a little no, and they may feel anxious or irritated or upset or taken aback or insulted or unloved, right? Because helpers attract people who crave a lot of help and demand a lot of help. And so the long and short of that is that you will get pushback, and you will get pushback that pushes your I feel guilty button. And you'll be in this cycle of saying no only in the way that's permissible. Like, again, you have, the flu or some other ailment, and you're completely run down and out of commission. And honestly, that's not why we're here. We're not here to do the learning and healing, growing for other people. We're there to support them, but we're not there to try and do it for them. We can never do that for another person, right? You can only grow for yourself. So please know that whatever natural healing and caring and helping that you feel called to do is great. It's not about not doing it. It's about being in balance. And honestly, I'm admitting it's hard for me too. And especially I've had to say no to some things that I really wanted to continue saying yes to. I've said no to some things that I didn't really want to continue saying yes to, or I was conflicted about it. But I just knew that it was time. So, no. So, how can you start saying no and feel better about saying no? Well, one way is to start practicing with things that are less high intensity, right? The stakes are not quite as high. So, saying no to smaller things, saying no to people you have less of a direct emotional connection to, noticing the impulse to say yes and waiting, saying, let me think about it. I'll get back to you on such and such a date. Start small and start with the things that are easier to say no to. Practice finding things that feel easier to say yes to so that you don't feel like you're only saying no. And what do I mean by that? Somebody's asking you to do something that takes a ton of your time and energy. I don't know. Maybe it's catering a dinner party for 12 because you're a really good cook. I'm just making that up, but you know what I mean. Maybe you're offering to bring a dish or two, but you're not going to cater that dinner party for 12, maybe right now or maybe not ever. I don't know. But finding a way to say yes to something that feels manageable so that you and the other person know that you care but saying no to the stuff that feels like really just beyond, either beyond what you really should be doing, because somebody shouldn't be asking for that, or saying no to the stuff that just feels so draining, right? And it's hard. The other thing that you can do to make saying no easier is, I know I've said it a million times, but meditation. Meditation's so important because it helps us to become more centered regardless of what's going on. So it doesn't mean we never feel distress or guilty or not so great about something, but we are able to observe our feelings and thoughts and understand that those are separate, from the situation, actually. They're separate from who we are. Our feelings and thoughts of the moment are temporary. It doesn't matter what's going on. Our feelings and thoughts are always in some sort of flux, even if they're recurrent, right? So even if that guilt comes back in, learning to meditate, especially mindfulness meditation, breathe through things, helps us to be more centered and to see other aspects of the situation. Because I guarantee you, if you're somebody who's said yes most of your life, whether or not you really wanted to, the idea of people being upset with you, not liking you, or wondering, am I okay if I say no, can feel overwhelming. And it's so funny, as I think when we're the kind of people who feel that way, we forget that there are people who never feel bad about saying no. And you have probably attracted a ton of them because you say yes. And you beautiful soul, you don't have to be someone that you're not. You don't have to give up being a wonderful, helping, caring person. But you need to keep your own tank relatively full. You just can't run on fumes. We just aren't designed that way. And that's actually kind of a good thing because it helps us to keep our emotional and physical and spiritual lives actually in balance. So, this is just kind of a quick episode. I wanted to kind of let you know what's been going on with me. It's not that I haven't been thinking about you, I have. And it's been really hard to say no to this and that and do some self care and create some space around the things I needed space around. But I want you to know that it's something that I hope that you too will start feeling a little more comfortable being able to do. And finally, don't wait till you feel comfortable to say no. In the beginning, nothing will feel comfortable if you're used to only saying yes. But remember, breathe. You can get through those moments of discomfort, and you'll probably ultimately create relationships, the ones, that you have, and new ones that are more equitable, more mutually respectful, and where you feel like you have the physical, emotional, and mental energy to engage in a way that's better for both of you. So I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you in the next episode. Of course, if you have enjoyed this episode of Unpacking Possibility with me, Dr. Traci Stein, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It helps me to continue bringing good content to you. And you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and listen to this podcast wherever you normally listen to all of the other great content that you enjoy. And until next time, be well.